webinar. So we will prompt you with 2 polls during the webinar where we want to ask you some questions about feedback that relates to LivingDoc. And then please feel free to use the Q&A section for this webinar to ask us any questions in between. We will answer most of them towards the end of the webinar. If anything fits directly to the context and what Andy is showing us, I'll do my best to interrupt him and try to answer it immediately with his help. So, and with that, I'll pass it over to Andy, and please take it away and show us our latest cool additions to Living Documentation.
Thank you, Matthias, for the introductions. Good. Living Documentation, the beating heart of PDT. So, what is Living Documentation? What we are talking about? So, on our website, we have this specification for Living Documentation. It says Living Documentation is a suite of examples formalized into working scenarios that automated for continuous validation. It therefore represents an always up-to-date specification of the system behavior, hence the name Living Documentation. A little bit formalized. What does this mean? Understandable. You have a suite of feature files, what you're working with when you're using SpecFlow and Cucumber, and you automate these scenarios and have it on a CI build. You automated it for continuous validation, and this is the Living Documentation. Because it's always executed, you see it's working, it's living. So what is SpecFlow plus LivingDoc? So there are 2 versions of SpecFlow plus LivingDoc. The SpecFlow plus LivingDoc Generator, which is HTML based. Sorry. And we have also the SpecFlow plus LivingDoc Azure DevOps version, which integrates completely into Azure DevOps, and you have it. They're available. Yeah, and most of the stuff I will show you today is in the SpecFlow LivingDoc Generator. So, and yeah, let's jump into a demo and I show you the SpecFlow plus LivingDoc Generator. So, first, we often use this bookshop example for our demos. And so you see Visual Studio, you have here a test project with the different feature files. So, and the SpecFlow plus LivingDoc Generator brings us now these feature files to be able to read into a single HTML file. So I'll show you quickly. This file I have here open, and this contains all the feature files, every scenario, every feature you have. And with that, you can get it out of your source control. So it's not, your feature files aren't anymore hidden somewhere in the source control where a non-developer, non-technical member of your team can find it easily. You also don't need any developer tools. We are here in a normal browser, in that case, Microsoft Edge. And yeah, no need for any IDE. So you see here, we have here the tree, like in Visual Studio, features, setup, test environment, topic card, and the files. You have the same here, and you click on it, and you have here on the right side all the content of your feature file. And as mentioned, it's the same tree. So when you're looking at the LivingDoc, and the rest of your team that's working in Visual Studio have the same structure. So you see the same when you're working with this. What's nice, one of the nice additional features, what you can do here in this and not in the IDEs, we have here a search for that search the content in the feature file. So let's search for how often, where do we often have book? Yeah, book we have often used in a bookshop. But what you can do is you can also filter here. Default, it searches everywhere, or your complete feature files. And you can filter here that you'd only search in specific parts of your feature file. So do we have a tag that's called book? No. Okay, yeah. But how often, where do we use book in steps? Okay, quite often. Let's have a look here. Let's on the search result. You also see you have on the right side the search term, the filter term is marked as yellow. And you already saw it. This looks a little bit nicer than a normal feature text file. So as we are in HTML and not in a simple web text editor, we can do a lot of more stuff to make it more eye candy. So some highlighting that you easily see where the scenario starts. We have the differentiation about the different sections in a scenario. We have real tables, so no SCR that over some times is not anymore formatted that well. So this is nicer fonts. That's what's not possible. Bringing it out of the feature files or from the IDE into an HTML-based living documentation. What you also saw here, the green check marks is we can now display the test results. And as said before, so for me, this is the living part of the living documentation. Now in the past, you saw also only the scenario, but now we have the test results. And you see, yes, this works. This is application behaves like it should. Nice. The application and the specification is living. We've also added some small test results summary where you can have a quick overview how many of your feature files are passing, failing, or have some other state. And this is the point for our first poll. Matthias?
Excellent. So then there's already a question in the chat. I would say we answer it towards the end because it's somewhat related, I think, to the poll to a degree. So guys, I'm going to launch the first poll now. The question is going to be, what are the most important test result details that you would be looking for to see here? So a poll is coming up now. Please take a few seconds to select an answer. And we are very curious to hear from you guys already how you feel about test result details and what's the most important thing for you to see.
Yeah.
Good, giving you guys a few more seconds. Okay, and I'm closing the poll now. Thank you so much. So I'm going to share the results right away, Andy, so you can take a look. We have a very interesting mixture of our audience between people saying they want to see as deep as the results of each given when they're in Gherkin step. And basically the other extreme is saying that pass, fail, other on the scenario level is enough. So it seems to be a pretty mixed opinion on what on how detailed we should go here.
Mm-hmm. But but we have also following quickly the test output and other stuff.
Yes.
Thanks for this input. This helps us in future development and thinking how and what we're implementing in SpecFlow plus LivingDoc. Good. Then let's continue with the demo. One feature that I really like, and this is in SpecFlow plus LivingDoc Generator and Azure DevOps, is if you have scenario outlines, like here, you have your example tables. This is a small example with some parameters. And SpecFlow plus LivingDoc gives you here this nice preview column where you can select And if you see it, this replaces the placeholder with the concrete values. Let's zoom a little bit in. And in this case, this is a small sample, but I had in projects in the past longer examples with more examples, more parameters, and this helps to then easily understand what's there, because you don't have to always jump with your eyes between you read the step, okay, search phrase, jump down to the example table, see what's the values. There is, okay, this in that case is domain. Next step, and then, okay, books again. Domain-driven design is there. So this makes it really easy to understand the scenarios and to check in a case if it's failing, is the data correct at all, or is there already some problem in the scenario? You have also here the results for the different examples. Let's stay in this zoom level that you can see it better. One other nice feature, and this is for me connecting this living documentation, what is now with the past, is our work item linking. So in Gherkin, you can put tags on scenarios like here, add WI1 and add WI3, or I think we have also here add alternative syntax. And you can do this for automation stuff and do different things than SpecFlow. But these WI1 and 5 are special tags. You can configure a SpecFlow plus LivingDoc that way that we detect this as a work item link, and you see it's a hyperlink, and when I click it, it's directly linking in that case to the feature where we written this scenario. So you can, as I said, connect the current, what you have, living documentation in the past, why to see why did you edit this scenario. And in that case, I showed it you in Azure DevOps, to our example project, but this works for every work item tracking tool that works with IDs. So you can configure this URL and how it should like, and you can use it with Azure DevOps, with Azure DevOps Server, or an old TFS server, Jira, U-Track, GitHub, you name it. And yeah, that's the one, the point in time for the second poll already. We would like to know which work item tracking tools you're using, also for future development, to see if we can do some better for the most used.
Okay, Andy, that sounds like we're ready to launch it. Then let's get it out there. Guys, please take some time, think about, or let us know what work item tracking tool you're using. So that would be, for example, Jira, Azure DevOps, GitLab. So a poll is coming up, and take a few seconds to let us know what you're using. That's particularly interesting for us when it comes to linking back to the work item like Andy has just shown you. Okay, so I'm giving you guys a few more seconds, and then we will close the poll. And here we go. Poll is closed. I'm going to share the results real quick with you guys. So we can see that, not very surprisingly, we have a large amount of Azure DevOps users, which is great. Mm-hmm. That's what we already work the best with here. But we also have a good amount of GitHub and Jira users. So that's quite interesting, Andy.
Yeah, good, but good to know, good to know.
All right. And back to you.
Good. Sorry. So one of the, I think, coolest features we have in SpecFlow plus LivingDoc Generator and Azure DevOps is the one that I'm showing you now. In Gherkin, you have a feature description, and also you can have a scenario description. We don't have it here any. And what we did is we interpret this description as Markdown. So you can enrich your scenarios with a lot of cool stuff and are not limited to ASCII art. So in that case, you see, we have here a link, and this is a link between feature files. You simply click here and jump to a complete different feature file. So if you want to, yeah, you have your features separated in multiple steps, and you can say, okay, you want to give a hint, okay, there's this defined, there's this defined. You can do this, and this is a simple markdown hyperlink, and we detect this and render it correctly. The other one is here. In this feature, we have here an image. No need to do an ASCII art here. This is an image, a mock-up of the screen. You can put it in there and see. And then you see also here, you can some small formatting like bold and italic, but you can also do everything what you want to do with Markdown. You can put unordered, unnumbered lists, numbered lists, headlines, and everything you can put into the description and enrich in that way your living documentation and make it more clearer for you all.
And Andy, I love this. I mean, these markdown capabilities really make this like a true living documentation, right? And adding screenshots, yes, adding additional formatting, that makes this not only basically a BDD scenario anymore and plain Gherkin, but you can really bump it up and use it as documentation of your specifications here. This is awesome.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. And how does this look like in Visual Studio? That was the editing shopping cart, edit feature here. Normal markdown for the mockup stuff, and then it's a markdown for including an image. You have an alternate text there with passed to the wireframe, and this is what I didn't say before, our search also search into this alternate text. So if you choose your words wisely here, you can search for your screenshots. That's really cool. Good. That were all the features within in LivingDoc. But another thing what's cool on the SpecFlow plus LivingDoc Generator is it is a single HTML file. Except if you have images, they are separated, but all the stuff, all the functionality is all in one HTML file. And with that, you can share this easily within the team or also outside the team. If you have stakeholders, shareholders that don't have access to your work item project management system, but you want to share the scenarios, your living documentation with them, this is not possible with SpecFlow plus LivingDoc Generator. You get this out of your CI system. You add a step to zip this few files and send it per email, send it per Microsoft Teams, send it by Slack, copy it on a Dropbox, or publish the files as it is to an Azure blob storage. There's no limitations here. It's only your imagination where to put the stuff. So you can adjust this how your team works currently. These are simple files. Put it there where your team has their files. If they have it on a OneDrive that they shared, put it there that they find it. So nothing new tool. You have we have to look there and make 3 clicks. You can optimize this how you work in your team.
That's
Yeah.
awesome, Andy. Andy, we have a question that relates to not the sharing capability of the LivingDoc generator, but more so on the Markdown functionality. So there is a question on if we can show the link source of Markdown.
Sure.
So I think that might was too fast when you went over it.
Yeah, I didn't show this, so I can put this on the right and this on the left. So we have here the search input is located on home screen, and this is normal Markdown link. So these brackets and then the normal brackets. If you have a space in your path, you have to use the angle brackets also here, that we can recognize this also. And one thing is currently, and we're working on that to fix this, if you have Markdown, you can't do an intention in the that isn't any white space allowed here, because Markdown is a little bit strange with white spaces. So if you have some Markdown, put it at the beginning of the line and then it works. Hope this answered the question.
I think so, Andy. At least to me, it did.
Good. Yeah, as we are already in Visual Studio, let's quickly show you quickly how you add SpecFlow plus LivingDoc Generator to your project. It's easy. It's really, really easy. So the only thing you have to do in your project, we are on a specification project, bookshop.acceptance test, is you install a NuGet package. And you open the NuGet package manager, search for LivingDoc. That's the easiest way. And then there you find two NuGet packages, one the SpecFlow plus LivingDoc CLI tool that we need later, and then also the SpecFlow plus LivingDoc plugin. And this is a plugin to SpecFlow. And you simply install it to your project. In our case, in this case, it's already installed here in the latest version. And when you then build your project, and when you then run your tests, let's make first the build and then the run of your tests. And they are done. What's happening now in the background is here in the work item folder, we generate a new file. I hope you can see this here, this feature data JSON. And this is the underlying data we need to generate the LivingDoc documentation. And then when you have this the mentioned CII tool comes into place. This is .NET Global Tool that needs to install. I don't show you this, but I give you a link where it's installed. It's one line of command line call if you have .NET Core installed. And if you have it, it's one command line call to generate from the feature data JSON the HTML. You have then a program called livingdoc.exe installed on your PC. First parameter is the path to the JSON file. And then you have different other parameters to configure. In that case, I have the title, bookshop. This is what's standing here. And then we have the work item URL template and the work item prefix. And these are the parameters that controls on which tags we make the work item links and how the URLs look like. That case again is Azure DevOps on our sample project. And this is the part where you can you adjust for your GitHub, for your Jira, for your local TFS. Put here the format for your work item URL. We have here a parameter ID, so it can everywhere the ID. and then we create the correct URLs. And let's execute this. It's really fast, and it's already generated. Now in the folder we have a LivingDoc HTML. It's here, and this is the LivingDoc from now, freshly generated from the project. And there are also other command line parameters available. Yeah, the one I'm not mentioning is the output, so you can already write the file somewhere where you want to have it. Yeah, so it's a matter of minutes to install SpecFlow plus LivingDoc Generator to your existing SpecFlow project. And that was part of the demo, and I would now go to the Q&A to answer your questions.
Great. We do have a good amount of questions, Andy. I'll start with the first one. It's execution, it's results related. Yes. So the first question is, how would we handle running our tests against multiple targets? For example, Chrome and Firefox browser targets.
Okay, with targets, I assume you're using the targets feature from the SpecFlow Plus Runner. And currently, what you have here, we don't have your multiple targets, but if you have, you see here at the check mark some information how often this scenario is run, and if it failed, also how often it failed, how often it's not. We don't display yet on which target it failed. You see only, okay, it failed on some targets. Okay, but with that information, you can then look into your normal test result view of your build and see, okay, which is the real one that's failed.
Mm-hmm. Perfect, Andy, thank you. Then there is another question, a pretty important one. That's about how this feature is available, how LivingDoc is available. Is it available with conventional SpecFlow or SpecFlow Plus?
So SpecFlow Plus LivingDoc is part of our SpecFlow Plus product series. But as all our other SpecFlow Plus products, it is free to use. So since January, SpecFlow Plus Runner and also the existing SpecFlow Plus LivingDoc and SpecMap are free to use, and this is the same for SpecFlow Plus LivingDoc Generator. From that side, SpecFlow Plus LivingDoc Generator works currently only with SpecFlow projects that use SpecFlow. The SpecFlow Plus LivingDoc Azure DevOps version, which is integrated into Azure DevOps, works with feature files. It's independent from the Gherkin tool you're using. You can use SpecFlow, but you use any kind of Cucumber implementation. As long as it's valid feature files, it should work.
Okay, thank you, Andy. You might have answered another question, because we just had a question popping up that was about basically saying looks great. So thank you for agreeing with us on LivingDoc. And the question is, what options are there for teams that are not using C#, for example, Python, to generate living documentation?
In that case, I would point you to the SpecFlow Plus LivingDoc Azure DevOps version to have it. There are some differences currently in the feature set of the post. So we don't have yet the test results in Azure DevOps, but searching, Markdown, this is all the same.
Yeah. Thank you, Andy. Perfect. So we can cover also this use case through the Azure DevOps extension. Then another question, it's actually two at the same time. Number one of the two is, are there any limitations for SpecFlow plus LivingDoc for an on-prem Azure DevOps instance?
No. No. There's no. It's Azure SpecFlow plus LivingDoc Azure DevOps is an extension. You install it via the marketplace. One small difference is that to able to use it, you need a SpecFlow account. So when you first try to open it, you get a welcome screen that you sign up for a SpecFlow account, not a SpecFlow Plus account, SpecFlow account, and this is you log in with your Microsoft account. It's I think then one screen with some additional data, and then you can use it in Azure DevOps.
Excellent. And the second part of this question, or the second question is, what are your feelings of, and might be a philosophical question, so what are your feelings for using SpecFlow for unit tests and not for Visual Studio and unit tests?
Philosophical, yes. Let's start with the first question. What is a unit test? If in the classical view, a unit test is you test one single class and one method on it, and for that, using SpecFlow, I think it's a little bit. If the logic is so much complicated in this one single class that you need scenarios and Gherkin to describe the behavior, you should probably refactor this class. There are different. It's not an or question; it's an and. So you have parts where unit tests makes more sense. You have parts when you're testing bigger stuff that are connected together. It makes more sense to use scenarios. I think the smallest thing I tested with scenarios was a combination of 3 to 4 classes of calculation logic, where we wrote then scenarios because it got so complicated. So it's not an or. It's these you can combine these two and use it the best how it fits to your project. It's it depends.
So it can be used, Andy, but you feel like if a class is so complicated, you should reconsider the class and might not use SpecFlow test it, but improve the class. But obviously, if users want to use it, nothing speaks against doing this, right?
Yeah, no, nothing speaks against it. And what you could do is, if you have this class and you need, I think you need to refactor it. You could start with writing scenarios. Then you have some working tests from end to end, and then start refactoring it to smaller parts, and which are then also covered by unit tests. Unit tests, you get normally a rather quicker response, also for a development loop that your developers get quicker feedback.
Perfect, Andy. Let's move on to the next question. The question is, can you use multiple work item prefixes? So for example, work in progress, bug, something like this. So different prefixes.
To be honest, I'm not sure. I don't think so. I don't know. I will check. I will check with the team. Do we have it in the docs? This is our new documentation site. We have a separate section for SpecFlow plus LivingDoc, where you find all the documentation for SpecFlow plus LivingDoc, Azure DevOps, and also the generator and command line option, work item prefix, special tag. No, it's a single tag at the moment.
Good.
So you can only have one.
There would be a feature request. So in case you are, it's something that you want, feel free to go to our new community forum, and you can submit a feature request there. We're continuously monitoring this. So we would be glad to have you do that in case that's something that you...
Yeah, shameless plug, support SpecFlow.org. And then you have here, join the community, join the conversation, and then you have here the feature request board, and here also the general discussion board for stuff.
Mm-hmm. Good, then let's move on to the next one, Andy. So the next question is, can we create LivingDoc without test execution while the solution build using SpecFlow Generator, similar to what we have in Azure DevOps plugin? Okay, so I think the question is, can the generator generate this without test results earlier during the solution build and not with the test results later?
At the moment, not. This data is only generated at runtime. To then be able to have this test execution result available. We have only this at runtime. If you need this earlier, yeah, as said, you in Azure DevOps, SpecFlow LivingDoc Azure DevOps works without building the project. This only needs the feature files to have it there. The generator, it works only at runtime, so you need to execute it at the moment. Would be interesting why you want this. Why do you want this as build time and not then at runtime with the test execution result?
Mm-hmm. So please submit another question that we can respond to if you have the answer to this. I'll just mark this one as answered for now. There's a simple question. Can we make this recording available? So Andy, I think the answer is easy. I'll let you respond.
Yes, we will make the recording available, and it will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. We have go SpecFlow.org/YouTube. When I remember correctly, it should bring you, or was it recordings? Matthias, perhaps you can paste the link to the YouTube channel.
Yeah, I'm happy to paste the link to the YouTube channel for you guys.
Yeah.
So we will upload this recording similar to also Andy's live streams that he's doing every Thursday, plus all other educational videos we are producing to our YouTube channel. So feel free to check it out and subscribe to it. And I'll put the link in the channel right after. Let's move on. There's a couple of more questions. So the next one is there a way to use the feature.json in the Azure DevOps pipeline and publish the report as an artifact?
Yes, sure. You get this, you have in your Azure DevOps pipeline, you have your test execution task there, which triggers the generation of the feature data JSON. Then you add a normal PowerShell task to it to execute the .NET Global tool. And then you have it as a file and can upload it. I think we also have some documentation here. So in our documentation, we have a section about how to share the generated HTML with your file for the different CI server. And we have Azure DevOps. Sadly, Azure DevOps has no HTML report, HTML file storage yet, so you can only publish it as a normal build artifact. And for that, you have the normal publish build artifact task that you perhaps already using to publish your normal builds.
Okay, perfect. So another question that goes back to test results, Andy.
Yeah.
Do we have test results based on scenario count as well. So
I assume you mean the summary here. We have it in the next iteration.
it's going to come out shortly. Good news for you guys.
Yeah, so in our next iteration, we plan that we add here also with on scenario count a summary. So coming soon.
Perfect. So two more. Can you please show what the output looks like when a row in a scenario outline fails?
Okay, let's quickly adjust the example. It's the search. Build. Run. So we have one test failed. Let's regenerate the HTML, and this is the one. So you see here now we have here, okay, one feature failed. You see here it's already red. This is red, and this is populating upwards. So one example in the scenario outline failed. So with that, the whole scenario outline is red, the whole feature is red, the whole folder is red. And you have it here.
Perfect, thank you, Andy. So then another question, can a QA tester add new scenarios through Azure DevOps and commit them back to code?
Yes. Let me quick open the. Okay, I have to stop screen sharing for a moment. I have to open another browser, and I don't know what is open there. Nothing is open there. Good. Share screen. So dev.com. Let's have a look at the bookshop example. So in Azure SpecFlow plus LivingDoc Azure DevOps integrates here in the overview. You have here the point, and you have here then your repository selector, branch selector, and everything. And what you have currently, and we will change this with the next release, that should be in the next days. Now it's called show source. It will be then open in editor. And this, bad example, this doesn't work here because these sources are on GitHub. But what happens here is that here you jump to your repos. I don't have it any here. Bad preparation. Do we have it here? So yeah, what this link should do is we have here some feature files. There we have a feature file. It's opens here in the repository hub, the feature file, and then you can edit here. And also some spoiler for the next release. This is currently only black and white, and I can't zoom here. We will add syntax highlighting here and syntax highlighting for English and German. So, and here you can then directly write your scenarios and features and edit and then you edit, and then you can change something, commit to it.
Awesome. Thank you for answering this question, Andy, and teasing already about what's to come. So I think there is one more question at this point, and I answered another one through a text response. The question that I answered was, can we show at some point how to set up the Azure DevOps plugin of LivingDoc? So I think that would be a topic, Andy, for a future webinar. And going back to the one that we should do now is, how do you show ignored features in LivingDoc? So how would they look like?
Ignored features are running in this other state. So they are then gray. Also, it's not when they are ignored, but when you have a binding not bound, or it's not fully implemented, it's pending, it will count as other. And you see it then popping up here. For the Azure DevOps plugin, so next shameless merchant marketing for my Twitch stream that is after the webinar. Plan is to create a CI pipeline for the project, and I can add there also to configure the Azure DevOps plugin. So join me after this webinar at twitch.tv/SpecFlow. Twitch TV SpecFlow, where we will we have the working on a sample project to use SpecFlow together with Selenium to automate ASP.NET Core application, and plan for today is to add a CI build to it that executes the tests. And adding Azure SpecFlow plus LivingDoc Azure DevOps there is, it's 5 minutes work.
Awesome. I'm sure everybody looks forward to this. When is the stream starting, Andy? At
2 p.m. Central European Summer Time, so in 12 minutes.
Okay, awesome. So then we can take a look at that, and also how you continue building out this application and testing it. Cool. Good. I think, Andy, we finished all the questions that we had posted. Cool. So we're I think good to start wrapping it up.
Cool. Yeah. One important link: go SpecFlow.org/LDG LivingDoc Generator. Blog post with all the instruction, how to get started, also how to install the .NET Core global tool, and where you can give feedback and feature requests. So that's the one link.
Super. The YouTube link is also already in the channel, guys. Please feel free to check it out, and also subscribe. We are going to post all of our content there. The Twitch stream, webinars like this, other educational videos. So follow us there. Thanks so much for participating and spending the time with us. I hope this was helpful. We got some good feedback from you guys, so much appreciated. And just let us know how you enjoy our features and what you would like to see us do next. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for joining.